Hello everyone, ARG back with some more Franchise Hockey Manager 8, and today we are going to start the 1991-1992 season, still playing as the LA Kings, hoping to lead them to that elusive Stanley Cup. It has been avoiding us. Hopefully we can put our hands on it. Well, technically I won't put my hands on it. I'm just the GM. Well, I guess the GM does put his hands on it, so I guess I would. But yeah. So last time out I decided on my lineup for the upcoming season, at least to start. Of course, injuries are going to be a part of changing that a little bit around. Of note, that's probably kind of interesting. Andrew Castles should now be able to hold his own a little bit better. He's a star and a half, so I'm pretty happy about that. McGillney's still only a 2-star player, so I'm not sure when that's going to get better for him in that regard. We have Robert Trickle, that is fresh out of Czechoslovakia. Of course, back then it wasn't the Czech Republic yet. We're right about there then, too. But anyway, so he's already a 2-star player, so he's really gonna help us at center. So I like my centers. I'm not too sure about my D. And let's all make a prayer together that Artus Airby doesn't get hurt, because I really don't have anything there anymore now that Glenn Ely was claimed in the expansion draft by the Sharks. I don't have too much there anymore. So, with that being said, I think we're ready to roll. So today we're gonna play October. As usual, it looks like we're gonna be alternating between, trips on the road that are fairly lengthy, I guess, and then long home stays. I know that the scheduling is different for teams on the West Coast because of the traveling and everything. I'm not used to that with the Sens. The Sens usually just have a regular Eastern schedule where, a 5-game road trip is considered a really long trip, so yeah. Alright, so let's get going. Hopefully we do pretty good. My D might still be a little bit of a problem. I'm doing what I can to fix it. I offered a lot of money at Rob Blake, but the Leafs tied that up, so I was denied. Alright, so Sergei Pryakin has been put on waivers, and I cannot get him. And the NHL has officially started. There were 3 games yesterday, and Craig Janney had a good game. He had 4 assists against the Rangers, so Craig Janney still with the Bruins. Alright, and we are starting on the road here against the Jets. Looks like we're done with those, 2 away games in a row against the Jets, and then 2 home games against the Jets in a row again. So it looks like those neutral site games might be a thing of the past. I don't know exactly. I would have to look it up. I don't know exactly what year they stopped doing that, but I know that, in the 80s and the start of the 90s, I'm pretty sure that it was a thing. Alright, so in Winnipeg to face the Jets, let's take a look at their lineup. Alright, so they have Teppo Numminen that's hurt. He's a pretty good defenseman, so that's gonna hurt them. And then they also have Ian Duncan that's hurt, not gonna play. Curtis Joseph and Mike Richter. And oh wow, that's quite the combo of goaltenders there in Winnipeg, where that's a far cry from Bob Essensa. So Cujo and Mike Richter in net, They have the goaltending, no problem there. Randy Carlyle, Dave Ellett, Brian Marchment, Nordmark, Cheveldayoff. That's funny. Cheveldayoff is Kevin Cheveldayoff is playing for Winnipeg. He's their GM in real life, so I think that's kind of funny. Frederica Lawson as well on D. Then up front they have Laurie Boschman, Andy Brickley, Ian Duncan, Inachak, Shannon Schmale, Flockhart, Dale Auerchuk, Pivanka, Steen, Wilson, Elenuk, Yarvenpa, Kumpel, and McBain. So yeah, I think that's kind of an interesting team. There's definitely talent on that team. There's holes as well too, so it's not like the most balanced team. But I really like their goaltending tandem. I think that's a pretty solid one, or at least it should be once they're done developing. Both of them are not done developing. When they are at full capacity, that should be pretty good. Alright, so we are in Winnipeg to play against the Jets. Oh, Andrew Castles is playing the wing again. I'm not sure I like that. I don't want for him to become a left wing. I kind of need him at center. But anyway. Alright, Artis Airbase is going to be our starting goaltender. He's going to be facing Cujo. And of course, go Kings! And let's have a good season. And we started with a 3-2 loss on the road in Winnipeg, so not the start that we were hoping for here. Winnipeg, we usually were really good against them, but they've improved. They are better. We outshot Winnipeg 34-32. Kevin Cheveldayoff was the first star of the game. He had an assist. Luc Robitaille was the second star with a goal and an assist, and Dale Auerchuk was the third star with a goal. Alright, so the Jets took a 2-0 lead into the first period, then Luc Robitaille scored unassisted. It was 2-1 Winnipeg after one. Then in the second, there was a fight between Randy Carlyle and Joe Rickey. Then in the third period, the Jets made it 3-1. Then Mike Ridley scored from Luc Robitaille and Ray Shepherd. It was a one-goal game with 4:20 left to go in the third period, but we just couldn't tie the game, and we lost this game 3-2. Gretzky didn't get a point. That's why we lost. We need Wayne to be the best player on the ice every night. Joe Nieuwendyk extends his point streak to 22 games with an assist against the Oilers. Memorable night for Craig Simpson in that same game. He had 3 goals and an assist. Rick Tuckett's assist streak ended at 8 games. He was held scoreless against Washington. And there's a new John Chabot trade rumor. John Chabot, part of the Red Wings organization. There's a rumor about him. He's on the block. I am not really interested. Alright, we have a day off, and then we're going to be playing in Edmonton against the Oilers. Another team that, aside from that playoff series in the first season, it's another team that we've played typically pretty well against. Bad news for the North Stars. Neil Broughton is hurt. That's like the second season in a row. Oh, he has a concussion, and he's out for 6 months. Yikes, that's gonna hurt Minnesota. They need Neil Broughton. They don't have Mike Modano. Mike Modano was drafted by Vancouver. So yeah, Steve Thomas extends his goal streak to 5 games. In that same game, he had a goal and an assist. Brian Benning extends his assist streak to 9 games. He had 2 assists against New Jersey. And Stanislav Matushkin has been suspended with the Sharks. He's going to miss 5 games. Alright, so now we are in Edmonton to play against the Oilers. Oilers are 1-0. They have won their only game of the season so far. That puts them at 3rd place in the conference. Let's take a look at what they look like. Right, so they have 1 injury. Kevin Lowe not going to be playing this game. Grant Fuhr and Bill Ranford still in net. They are both 4-star goaltenders, so both really good. On D, they have Kevin Lowe, Yves Racine, Adrian Plavsic, Chris Joseph, Craig Muni, Gord Murphy, and Steve Smith. Up front, they have Biggs, McRae, Simpson, Tikkanen, Acton, Carlson, McTavish, McElwain, Mark Messier, Glenn Anderson, Dobbin, Curry, McClellan, and Vukota. Alright. Hopefully we can win this guy. Ah, Castles is back at center. That's what I wanted. That's exactly what I wanted. Although, sucks to see Robert Trickle on the fourth line, but, you know, cannot be perfect. So my left wing is maybe a little weak as well. So on top of the D, maybe I want to address the left wing situation. Alright, Arthur Serbe back in net for us, the Vizina winner. Bill Ranford is going to be in net for the Oilers. Go Kings! Come on, give me a W here. A 4-4 tie. I guess we'll take it. It's better than losing. Let's see. We outshot Edmonton 35-27. We should have won that. Yves Racine was the first star of the game. He had a goal and an assist. Wayne Gretzky was the second star with 3 assists, and Craig McTavish was the third star with 2 assists. Oilers took a 2-0 lead into the first period. Then Alexei Gusarov scored from Wayne Gretzky and Joe Rickey. Then Luc Robitaille scored on the power play from Wayne Gretzky and Gary Galley. It was tied at 2 after 1. There was a fight between Steve Smith and Ray Shepard, and then Basil McRae and Randy Ladouceur got at it as well. Then in the second period, we took a 4-2 lead. We had Mike Gartner score on the power play from Ray Shepard and Wayne Gretzky. Then Robert Reichel scored his first NHL goal from Scott Arniel and Gary Galley. It was 4-2. The Oilers did score a goal, made it 4-3 heading into the third period. Then fairly late in the third, Yves Racine tied the game, and of course that went to overtime. Nobody scored, but we did get a fight between Don Biggs and Gerald Deduck, and 4-4 tie. So we are still winless here after 2 games. Tom Curvers got suspended for New Jersey. He's going to miss 2 games. Steve Thomas extends his goal streak to 6 games. He had a goal and an assist in that same game against the Devils. There was no stopping Pelle Eklund, who had a hat-trick against Pittsburgh. No suspension for Brian Marchment, now playing for the Jets. Joe Nieuwendyk extends his point streak to 23 games with an assist against the Jets in that same game. Alright. That's a nice streak for Nieuwendyk. Oh, there's a lot of players on the block there. Not on the block, on waivers, sorry. So David Latta has been put on waivers by the Nordiques. Sean McKenna has been put on waivers by the Canucks. Rob Zettler has been put on waivers by the Canucks as well, and Alain Cote has been put on waivers by the Bruins. I guess I could go for Rob Zettler. The problem is that they have added that no movement clause thing in the game whenever you claim somebody on waivers, and then I'm gonna be stuck with him. So I don't think that I'm going to claim him or anything like that. I have plenty of defensive defensemen. I don't really need them. Alright, no one could stop Brian Benning, who had a hat-trick against the Leafs. Then Brian Benning's assist streak ended at 9 games, so he got a hat-trick, but he didn't get an assist, so that thing is done for him, but his point streak continues. And we are now hosting the Edmonton Oilers. So it was a home and home with the Oilers. We tied the first game in Edmonton. We are now going to be hosting them. Obviously, we just played them. I'm not going to look at their lineup again. Right, Bill Ranford is going to be in net for the Oilers. We're going to give François Gravel his first NHL start, and hopefully he does pretty good. So go Kings. We need a W here. We're back at home. First home game of the season. Home opener. And it's another 4-4 tie against the Oilers. Wow. I mean, I'll take the points, but I need W's at one point. All right, we can say thank you to Gravel's first start here. We were outshot 43-32 in that one, so as disappointing as a tie is in that situation, I'll take it. Mike Ridley was the first star of the game. He had 2 assists. Esa Tikkanen was the second star with a goal and an assist, and Rick Green was the third star with a goal. 15,213 people in attendance for this game. Oilers scored twice, in the first period. Then Alexander McGillney scored from Scott Arniel and Andrew Castles. It was 2-1 Edmonton after one. Then in the second period, Gary Gaddy scored from Mike Ridley and Joe Rickey. It was tied at 2 after 2. In the third period, Luke Robitaille scored on the power play from Mike Gartner, and then Rick Green scored from Mike Ridley and Wayne Gretzky. It was 4-2 Kings, but then we let the Oilers score twice. It was 4-4. There was a fight between Joe Rickey and Mick Vukota. And then in overtime, no goals but 2 fights. One fight. Gerald Deduck fought Steve Smith. And we have a 4-4 tie, so we are still winless. Joe Rickey got hurt. Okay, we can't have that too much. I don't have that many spares. Oh, he's day-to-day, we're good. Good game for Guy Carbonneau in Montreal. He had a hat-trick against the Waiters. Bruce Driver has a memorable game playing for the Devils. He had 4 assists against the Nordiques. In that same game, Kirk Muller had 3 goals and an assist. He also had a pretty good game. Strong game for Theo Fleury in Calgary. He had a hat-trick against the Sharks. A night to remember for Akan Lube. In that same game, he had a hat-trick as well. And Joe Nieuwendyk extends his point streak to 24 game. In that same game, he had 1 assist against the poor Sharks. All right, we have a day off, and then we're going to be facing the Flames, who are probably still a very good team. Good game for Brian Mullen playing for the Rangers. He had, 2 goals and 5 assists against the Islanders. 12-1 trouncing of the Islanders. 2 goals and 5 assists for Brian Mullen. And in that same game, Darren Turcotte had 3 goals and 4 assists. Whew. Those are really good games for the personal stats. All right, Calgary's in town. They are 2-1 this season. They are second in the conference. Let's go ahead and take a look at them. All right, so they have Perry Berezan, that's hurt, not gonna play this game. In net, they have Wayne Colley and Mike Vernon. On D, they have Brian Fogarty, Jamie McCann, Brad McCrimmon, Dana Merzen, Gary Suter, Al McInnes, Rick Natras, Rob Ramage, and Brad Shaw. That's a lot of D's. Up front, they have Paul Ranheim, Gary Roberts, Stu Grimson, Zdeno Siga, Gilmore, Nieuwendyk, Otto, Borchevsky, Fleury, Lube, Mullen, and Gregg. Pretty solid team overall. Alright, we need a big game here. Oh, we're going back to François Gravel. Oh, controversy in the net yet again for a third version in a row. So is François Gravel going to try to run away with the starter position? The the season right after Arthur's Irbe won the Vizina. You'd think that they would give Arthur's Irbe a little bit more leeway there. But anyway, Wayne Colley's going to be in net for the Flames. François Gravel in net for us. Go Kings! Come on! Another 4-4 tie. Jesus. What's going on here? Alright, we were outshot. Whew. Sorry about that. Alright, so as I was attempting to say, we were outshot 45-40 in this game. Wayne Gretzky was the first star of the game. He had 3 goals and an assist. Theo Fleury was the second star with 3 assists. Mike Gartner was the third star with 3 assists as well. 15,213 people in attendance. I believe that's our new high. I get screwed over by the finances. And as a result, the max attendance keeps dropping. So I don't know what that's gonna do long term. I guess we'll see. Right, so the Flames opened up the scoring in the first, then Wayne Gretzky tied the game from Gary Galley and Mike Gartner. It was tied at 1, and then the Flames scored twice. It was 3-1 Calgary after 1. Didn't look too good for the Kings at that point. Rick Green fought Joe Mullen, then Brian Glynn fought Stu Crimson, and Alexei Gusarov fought Joel Otto, so 3 fights in the first period alone. And in the second period, Gary Gaddy scored on the power play from Wayne Gretzky and Mike Gartner. Then the Flames scored. It was 4-2. Then Wayne Gretzky scored on the power play from Mike Gartner and Luc Robitaille. It was 4-3 Flames after 2. And then in the third period, Wayne Gretzky tied the game from Alexander Mogilny and Andrew Castles. It was tied at 4. There was a fight between... Oh, that was in overtime, sorry. Between Randy Ladouceur and Theo Fleury. And then Rick Green and Al McInnes also fought. 4-4, the final score. So our last 3 games were 4-4 ties. In that game, Doug Gilmour reached 600 points in his career. He had a goal and 2 assists, so Gilmour is 28 and a 5-star player. Wayne Gretzky reached 2,100 points in his career with 3 goals and an assist. Gretzky is 30 and obviously he is a 5-star player as well. Ron Duguay improves at left wing. That's good for you. You're not good enough to play in the NHL, but I don't have anybody else, so there you are. Wayne Gretzky has a great game, as we saw, 3 goals and an assist. And Joe Nieuwendyke's point streak ended at 24 games, so we stopped Joe Nieuwendyke. No point against us. Alright, so... we have a day off, and then we play Winnipeg at home. Oh, Brian Glynn got hurt as well. Oh, can he play, though? If he can't, I'm going to need to put somebody on the injured reserve and recall a defenseman. Randy Carlyle played in his 1000th game in his career. Didn't get a point. That was against San Jose. Randy Carlyle is 35 and a 2.5-star player. Yeah, he can't play. Let's sim one day just in case one of the 2 can play next game. Boston is looking to trade Mike McEwen. All right. No, I'm gonna need to put somebody on the injured reserve. Oh no, that's true. I'm carrying 2 extra defensemen, so I don't need to. I'm only carrying 1 extra forward. I forgot about that. That's a decision I made when I got Brian Glynn. Alright, we good then. We are good to go. All right, so Winnipeg is in town. Winnipeg is now 2-1-1. They are fourth in the conference. We played them the first game of the season and we lost in Winnipeg 3-2. So hopefully we can go ahead and win our first game of the season finally here against them. Alright, Cujo's going to be in net for the Jets. We're going back to Artis Air Bay. Go Kings! Come on, give me a W now. We need a good game from Air Bay. We can do it. A 2-2 tie. Jeez. What is going on? So we outshot the Jets 41-37 in that one. Mike Gartner was the first star of the game. He had an assist. Flockhart was the second star with a goal and an assist. And Scott Arniel was the third star with an assist. Set out crowd in LA yet again. Wayne Gretzky opened up the scoring in the first from Mike Gartner and Luc Robitaille. It was 1-0 Kings at that point. Gary Volk got a major for boarding, so hopefully he's not going to get suspended. Alright, then in the second period, the Jets tied the game. It was 1-1 after 2. In the third period, Alexei Gusarov scored from Scott Arniel and Alexander Mogilny. It was 2-1 Kings at that point. But with 29 seconds left to go, Dela Warchuk tied the game at 2. That went to overtime, and obviously nobody scored because all we do is tie, apparently. Mike Ridley is hurt, and Gary Volk is hurt as well. He's the one who boarded somebody, and apparently he's hurt. Alright, so the injuries are starting to pile up here. That's funny, Volk was showing as injured, but he's not showing as injured here because he's getting suspended. Okay. So Mike Ridley is day-to-day. Oh, I'm guessing that Yarvenpa is the guy that Gary Volk boarded because he's out. He has a fractured hip. He's going to be out for 5 months. Gary Volk is suspended for 7 games. Yikes. Mike Ridley is day-to-day, as we saw. Strong game for Theo Fleury. He had a hat-trick against the Oilers. Tom Curvers is back from suspension with the Devils. Brian Benning extended his point streak to 12 games with 2 assists against the Sharks. Dave Laurie has a memorable game. He had a hat-trick in that same game against the Sharks. And Wendell Clark extends his goal streak to 5 games with a goal and 2 assists against the Canucks. Alright, we have 3 days off, and then we're going to be hosting the San Jose Sharks. Is that going to be our opportunity to do something other than getting a tie? Oh, Al McInnes is hurt with the Flames. He's going to be out for 3 weeks with a sore shoulder. Akan Lube in that same game had 5 goals against Minnesota. Wow. Big game for Gary Suter in that same game. He had 4 assists. Tim Berglund with the Islanders got suspended. He's going to miss 3 games. Brian Benning extends his point streak to 13 games. He had a goal and 3 assists against Toronto. Dave Laurie extends his point streak to 12 games with 2 assists in that same game. And Joe Rickey is starting to feel better. Okay, Ridley can play hurt, so I'm not gonna mess with it. I guess Ron Duguay draws in for Gary Volk. Alright, and we're about to play the Sharks. Oh, the Sharks won their first game. I don't know against whom, but at least it's not against us. Sharks are 1-4-1. They are 10th in the conference. There's 11 teams now in the conference. Chicago is worse than them. Let's take a look at their lineup. Alright, so they have Jim Weimer, that's hurt. He's not going to be playing this game. So Glenn Ely and Johan Edberg in net, so we might be seeing a familiar face here. Jean-Jacques Daigneault, Olsen, Kultanen, Taglianezzi, Milo, Gart Butcher, Marty McSorley, and Matushkin on D. Matushkin is suspended too, so he's not going to be playing that game. Up front, they have Donnelly, Mats Naslund, Mario Robert, Turnbull, Peter Forsberg, Kolishar, Sullivan, Sutter, Wilson, Bertagia, Caulfield, DeBlois, and Scott Walker. I would hope that we can get our first win of the season against them. Alright, Johan Edberg, the Moose, is going to be in net for the Sharks. We're going to go back to Francois Gravel. Come on, Kings, give me a W. I want one win this season at the very least. Come on. Woohoo! We finally won a hockey game this season. We won 5-3 against the poor Sharks that is the expansion team. Alright, we outshot the Sharks 37-23. Ray Shepard was the first star of the game. He had 2 assists. Scott Walker was the second star with 2 assists. And Andrew Castles was the third star with a goal and an assist. Another sellout crowd in LA and in Inglewood. Andrew Castles opened up the scoring in the first from Ray Shepard and Randy Wood. Then Wayne Gretzky scored on the power play. That was his 5th of the season from Ray Shepard and Mike Gardner. 2-0 Kings at that point. The Sharks scored, made it 2-1, but then Luc Robitaille scored on the power play unassisted. It was 3-1 Kings after 1. Then in the second period, Alexei Gusarov scored from Andrew Castles and Dan Gratton, and then Gretzky scored again on the power play from Luc Robitaille and Mike Gardner. It was 5-1 Kings after 2. There was a fight between Adam Burt and Perry Turnbull. Then in the third period, the Sharks scored twice, made it 5-3, but they ran out of gas, and we have our first win of the season finally. Right, Wayne Gretzky reached 800 goals in his career with those 2 goals. Still 30 years old and still a 5-star player. Matushkin is back from suspension with the Sharks. Brian Glynn is feeling better, and Joe Rickey as well. Right, we have a couple days off, and then we're going to be hosting the Minnesota North Stars before we go on the road to finish not the season, to finish the month. Sorry. Oh, apparently Randy Ladouceur got hurt too. Why not? Right, Brian Benning extends his point streak to 14 games. He had a goal against the Red Wings. Brian Benning is on a tear this season. 13 points in 6 games. Dave Laurie extends his point streak to 13 games. He had an assist against the Red Wings. And Mike Ridley is completely recovered, I believe. No, not yet. Yes, I know Randy Ladouceur is hurt. I saw. Alright. Brian Glynn says, I can play if you need me. Well, I'm gonna need you too, because we have injuries. Mike Ridley is completely recovered. And, yeah, Ron Duguay is on the block. I'm not sure we're gonna get anybody to bite, but who knows? Alright, Minnesota is in town. They are 2-3 this season. That's good for 10th in the conference. Now keep in mind they lost Neil Broughton like first game of the season, or maybe second game of the season. That's gonna Alright, so for some reason they're not putting Neil Broughton on the injured reserve, even though he's out for most of the season. Minnesota has Bob Essensa and Carey Taco in net. Then on D they have Sean Chambers, Mark Hardy, Jim Johnson, Mo Manta, Frank Musil, Bob Rouse. Up front they have Brian Bellows, who's hurt but may be playing. Pat Conacher, De Palma, Liba, McClellan, Millar, Broughton, Gagne, Udge, Bustad, Brown, Cicerelli, Gavin, Leach, and LeBlanc. I think that's a game that we have a good chance of winning. Alright, Bob Essensa in net for Minnesota. François Gravel back in net for the Kings. Why not? He won our first game of the season. Go Kings! Let's make it 2 in a row. Another tie, 5-5. Oh my god. We're gonna break a record at this point. Right, 5-5 tie against Minnesota. We outshot them 47-35. Wayne Gretzky was the first star of the game. He had a goal and 3 assists. Dave Gagne was the second star with a goal and 3 assists as well. Gary Gaddy was the third star with 2 goals. Sellout crowd yet again here in Inglewood. Minnesota opened up the scoring in the first, then Mike Gartner scored from Gerald Deduck and Wayne Gretzky, and then Minnesota scored again. It was 2-1 Minnesota here after 1. Robert Trickle got a boarding major, and Wayne Gretzky got into a fight with Frank Musil. So Wayne Gretzky here with one of his fights in his career. I was informed that Gretzky fought only twice in his entire career. In the second period, Gary Gaddy scored from Luc Robitaille and Wayne Gretzky, tied the game at 2. Then Minnesota scored, made it 3-2. We headed into the third period. We scored 3 goals in a row. Wayne Gretzky on the power play from Luc Robitaille and Mike Gartner. Then Gary Galley on the power play from Alexander McGillney and Andrew Castles, made it 4-3 Kings. Then Luc Robitaille on the power play as well. That was his 5th of the season from Wayne Gretzky and Ron Duguay. It was 5-3 Kings at that point, but we let Minnesota come back, and they tied the game at 5. And of course, nobody scored in overtime, because what's a Kings game if it's not a tie this season? Oh, I have 2 defensemen that came back from injuries at the same time. That's pretty good. Zino Cicerelli had a pretty good game against us. He had 4 assists. Mark Abscheid is suspended with Buffalo. He's gonna miss 4 games. Strong night for Paul Coffey. He had a goal and 4 assists against the Rangers. Brian Benning's point streak ended at 14 games. He was held scoreless against the Hawks. Dave Laurie's point streak ended at 13 games in that same game. Joe Mullen will miss 3 weeks with the Flames. He has a strained back. Brian Glenn is back. So is Joe Rickey. Alright, we have 2 days off, and then we're going to be playing in New Jersey against the Devils. Look at the Devils. They're no match for us. They only have 2 ties. We have 5. We are going to out-tie them. That's for sure. All right. We are in New Jersey facing the Devils. Devils are 3-3-2 this season. And they are without Sylvain Lefebvre. He's hurt with a dislocated shoulder, not gonna play. The Devils have Sean Burke and Chris Terreri in net. Bruce Driver, Gary Nylund, Craig Willanen, Ken Daneyko, Tom Curvers, Lilo Deline, and Jay Moore on D. Aaron Broughton, Yvon Kogivo, Paul Fenton, Johnson, Molly, Shanahan, McHugh, Loisel, Muller, Sundstrom, Todd, Bruce, Verbeek, and McLean up front. Alright, go Kings. We need a win. François Gravel back in net. Artus Herbe won the Vizina and had his starting goaltender position taken away from him the very next season, just a few games into the season. That's pretty incredible, isn't it? Right, François Gravel in net, Sean Burke in net for the Devils. Oh, we won 7-3. Not only did we win, it's a decisive win. And we were outshot to 39-35. Luc Robitaille was the first star of the game. He had a goal and 3 assists. Gary Galley was the second star with 2 assists. And Scott Arniel was the third star with 2 goals. We scored 4 unanswered goals in the first period. Luc Robitaille from Wayne Gretzky and Mike Gartner. Then Ray Shepard from Luc Robitaille and Rick Green. Scott Arniel scored unassisted, and then Arniel scored again short-handed from Gary Galley and Gerald Deduck. 4-0 Kings after 1. There was a fight between Brendan Shannon and Brian Glenn, and Paul Fenton and Gerald Deduck also fought. Then in the second period, Ray Shepard scored on the power play from Mike Gartner and Luc Robitaille, made it 5-0, and then the Devils scored twice. It was 5-2 Kings after 2. Devils made it 5-3, but then Alexander Mogilny scored from Andrew Castles and Gary Galley, and then finally Wayne Gretzky from Luc Robitaille and Mike Gartner. We have a 7-3 victory. That feels good. Brendan Shannon and Gerald Deduck fought in the third, and David Molly and Joe Rickey as well. Right, and then one day off, not one day off, the very next day, sorry, we're going to be in New York to play against the Rangers at Madison Square Garden. Wayne Gretzky extends his goal streak to 5 games with a goal and an assist, so scored in 5 straight for Wayne. Doug Gilmour extends his assist streak to 8 games with a goal and an assist against Minnesota. Tim Berglund is back from suspension with the Islanders. Alright, so in New York against the Rangers. Rangers are 5-4-1. Let's take a look at their lineup. Oh, they have a couple injuries here. Jeff Bukaboom has a fever. It's a little early for COVID. It's 1991. So it ought to be something else. And James Patrick is also hurt, not gonna play. So 2 defensemen that are in their top 6 not playing this game. Peter Sidorkiewicz and John Van Beesbrook in net for the Rangers. Brian Leach on D with Lee Norwood, Ken Sutton, Lars Hakon, not too sure who this guy is, Norm McIver and Michel Petit. Up front they have Jan Eriksson, Krushelensky, Malin Ogrodnik, Tadelic, Kelly Kisio, Jason Lafreniere, Smith, Turcotte, Isobart, Broughton, Dallin, Granato, Lawton, and Sandstrom. That's not a bad team. They have a little bit of issues on D because they have a couple injuries, but it's a pretty solid team. That's going to be a good challenge. Alright, Artus Airbay back in net for us. That's 2 games in 2 nights. Peter Sidorkiewicz is going to be in net for the Rangers. Go Kings, we need another W here. Come on. 6-4 win. Oh yes, the day of the everyday ties are now over, apparently. We were outshot 37-34 in that game. Luc Robitaille was the first star of the game. He had a goal and 4 assists. John Ogrodnik was the second star with 3 assists. And Wayne Gretzky was the third star with 5 assists. Rangers scored first in the first period. It was 1-0 Rangers after 1. Then there was a fight between Thomas Sandstrom and Gerald Deduck. Then in the second period, Mike Gartner scored from Luc Robitaille and Wayne Gretzky. Then Randy Wood from Ray Shepard and Mike Ridley. It was 2-1 Kings. At that point, the Rangers did tie the game before the end of the period. Tied at 2 after 2. There was a fight between Brian Leach and Alexander Mogilny. Wow, 2 talented players got at it. Then in the third period saw a lot of offense. Rangers made it 3-2. Then we scored 4 straight. Joe Rickey from Luc Robitaille and Wayne Gretzky. Gerald Deduck from Luc Robitaille and Wayne Gretzky. Luc Robitaille from Mike Gartner and Wayne Gretzky. And then Ray Shepherd on the power play from Luc Robitaille and, yes, again, Wayne Gretzky. Made it 6-3 Kings. The Rangers did score to make it 6-4, but it was too little too late. That's a 6-4 win in New York for the Kings. Grattan improves at left wing. Good for him. Memorable night for Wayne Gretzky. 5 assists. That's pretty good. And a good game for Luc Robitaille as well. A goal and 4 assists. That's also pretty good indeed. Right, we have 2 days off before we play the Islanders. We have 4 games left here in October. Jim Vesey in Hartford is suspended. He's going to miss 1 game. Randy Ladouceur is almost back. Doug Gilmore's assist streak ended at 8 games. He did score 2 goals against Chicago, though, but didn't get any assists. Oh god, after losing Neil Broughton, the North Stars now lost Dave Gagne for, it's 3 weeks. Not the end of the world, I guess, but still. So a strained rib cage muscle. There was no stopping Dino Ciccarelli in that same game. He had a hat-trick. That was against the Flyers. And Kevin Stevens extends his goal streak to 5 games with 2 goals and 2 assists against the Devils. 1 more day off before we play the Islanders. Memorable night for Wendell Clark. He had a hat-trick against the Red Wings. And Tony McKegney is on the block in St. Louis. Alright, we are about to play the Islanders. That got trounced, 12-1 it was earlier. So hopefully we can give them some of that too. Islanders are struggling. They are 2-6 this season. Let's take a look. Yeah, they did trade Steve Duchesne, so yeah. Alright, so Kelly Rudy and Jacques Cloutier in net. Bruce Cassidy, Steve Conroy, Jeff Norton, Bob Beers, Evan Stanton on D, Greg Gilbert, Leclerc, McKellar, Mark Ward, Tonelli Berg, Elminen, LaFontaine, Sutter, Trottier, Berglund, Flatley, Kerr, Kudelski, and Volek up front. Now Bob Kudelski is getting better now that we have traded him. Well, he's better. He's a 2.5 star player, but he has only 1 point in 8 games for the Islanders. All right. Let's see if we can beat the Islanders. François Gravel back in net for us. Jacques Cloutier back in net for the Islanders. Go Kings! Let's make it 3 wins in a row. Make me proud. 5-0 win, François Gravel with his first shutout of the season. And first shutout of his career, too. Alright, so we were outshot 35-32 in that game. François Gravel, first star, of course, 35 saves. That's pretty good for a shutout. Wayne Gretzky was the second star with 2 goals and 2 assists, and Gary Gaddy was the third star with a goal. Gary Gaddy opened up the scoring in the first. That was his 5th of the season from Wayne Gretzky and Alexei Gusarov. Then Gretzky scored on the power play from Ray Shepherd and Luc Robitaille. 2-0 Kings after 1. There was a fight between Paul Stanton and Joe Rickey. Nobody scored in the second period. Then in the third, Randy Wood scored from Ron Duguay and Gerald Deduck. Then Wayne Gretzky scored his 10th of the season on the power play from Ray Shepherd. And then Luc Robitaille from Wayne Gretzky and Mike Gartner, 5-0 Kings. There was a fight between Tim Kerr and Adam Burt. And that was it. Oh, that I don't like. Alexander McGillney got hurt. McGillney's been quiet this month. Now he's hurt. 2 to 3 weeks. Okay. Alright, so McGillney out 2 to 3 weeks. That sucks. Oh, he's starting to get better. He's a 3-star now. Alright. A cervical hyperextension. Mike Gartner extends his assist streak to 8 games with an assist in that win. Luke Robitaille extended his goal streak to 5 games with a goal and an assist, and that was 12 straight games with a point for him. Jim Vesey back in the lineup after serving his suspension in Hartford. Joe Sakic extends his point streak to 12 games. He had 2 assists against the Rangers. And Rob Blake is suspended in Toronto. He's going to miss 4 games. Alright, I'm going to need to put McGillney on the injured reserve. I'm going to need to recall somebody. I don't have many candidates. Oh hell, I have 3. Robert Lang it is. He's not quite ready yet, but alright, Sylvain Turgeon has racked up 600 points in his career with 2 goals against the Buffalo Sabres. Turgeon is 26 and he's dropped to a 3-star player this season. Randy Carlyle is hurt for the rest of the season, 10 months with a concussion against Washington. And Randy Ladouceur is about to come back. Alright, 3 games left here. We're going to be in Detroit to play against the Red Wings. Red Wings are 4, 5, and 1. That's good for 8 in the conference. Right, so Miroslav Freiser is hurt with a concussion. He's not going to be playing. Tim Chevalier and Mark Laforêt in net for Detroit. Paul Cavallini, Steve Chiasson, Hines, Modry, Sabourin, Schneider, Rick Zombo on D. Up front they have Berg, Gallant, Graves, King, Klima, Shabbat, Contos, Oates, Iserman, Dave Barr is hurt, not gonna play, Brent Feddick, Kosher, Joe Murphy is hurt, not gonna play, and Bob Probert. François Gravel back in net for the Kings. Tim Chevalier in net for the Red Wings. Come on, Kings. Let's make it 4 wins in a row. How about that? 8-4 victory. Alright, looks like we got all of the ties of the season out of the way at the start of the season. Now we're just going to win games. I like that. Alright, we outshot Detroit 40-29 in that game. Scott Arniel was the first star of the game. He had 3 assists. Mike Gartner was the second star with 2 goals and an assist. And Ron Duguay was the third star with 2 assists. Wayne Gretzky opened up the scoring in the first from Gerald Deduck and Mike Gartner. Then Andrew Castle scored from Ron Duguay and Scott Arniel. Then Robert Reichel from Dan Gratton and Robert Lang. It was 3-0 Kings after 1. There was a fight between Gerard Gallant and Joe Rickey. Then in the second, Andrew Castle scored from Scott Arniel and Ron Duguay. Then the Red Wings scored. It was 4-1 Kings at that point. Mike Ridley scored from Rick Green and Scott Arniel made it 5-1. Steve Yzerman scored for Detroit, made it 5-2. Then we scored 2 more goals. Mike Gartner from Joe Rickey and Wayne Gretzky, and then Mike Ridley from Brian Glynn and Randy Wood. 7-2 Kings after 2. There was a fight between Steve Chiasson and Joe Rickey, and then Bob Probert and Joe Rickey fought a little bit later in that period. Red Wings made it 7-3 early in the third period, but not too long after. Mike Gartner scored his 5th of the season from Luc Robitaille and Wayne Gretzky. It was 8-3 at that point. The Wings would add 1 more goal, but that was way too late. 8-4 victory. Mike Gartner extends his assist streak to 9 games with 2 goals and an assist in that one game. Luc Robitaille extended his point streak to 13 games with an assist, and that was 8 straight games with an assist for him as well. And then Randy Ladouceur is ready. Right, we have a day off, then we're going to be in Hartford to play against the Waiters. Pat LaFontaine got his 600th point of his career with an assist against San Jose. Pat LaFontaine is 26 and still a 5-star player. Memorable game for Brian Leach. He had a goal and 5 assists against Minnesota. Pretty good game. And Joe Sakic extends his point streak to 13 games with an assist against the Jets. Alright, in Hartford, so we played 2 games in 2 nights to end the month here. So in Hartford today and in Boston tomorrow. Hartford is 3-5-1 this season. No injuries in Hartford, so that's their best lineup here. So Mark Fitzpatrick and Reese are in net for the Waiters. So Fitzpatrick got sent there by us. Dave Babich on D, Mark Bergevin, Ulf Samuelson, Sylvain Côté, Randy Muller, Rudy Postchek, Mark Tinordi. Then up front they have Brent Gilchrist, Dave Tippett, Sylvain Turgeon, Dallas Drake, Dean Evason, Ray Ferraro, Ron Francis, Smith, VC, Yake, Kevin Deneen, Gage, Yaremchuk, and Scott Young. We can beat them, we're on a roll here. Right, Francois Gravel is going to be shouldering most of the load apparently this season. Jeff Reese is going to be in net for Hartford. Go Kings, let's make it 5 wins in a row. And a 6-2 victory. Wow, really good road trip here. We were outshot 32-30 in that one. Ray Shepard was the first star of the game. He had 2 goals and 2 assists. Robert Reichel was the second star with 2 goals, and Wayne Gretzky was the third star with 2 goals and an assist. Waiters opened up the scoring in the first, then Wayne Gretzky scored from Scott Arniel and Gerald Deduck. Then Hartford scored, and then we tied the game again. Ray Shepard on the power play from Mike Gartner and Wayne Gretzky tied at 2 after 1. Couple fights, Ulf Samuelson and Gerald Deduck, and then Dave Tippett and Randy Ladouceur. In the second period, Robert Reichel scored from Gary Galley and Gerald Deduck. Then Reichel scored again a minute later from Dan Gratton and Ray Shepard. Then Wayne Gretzky scored on the power play from Ray Shepard and Gary Galley. It was 5-2 Kings after 2. And then finally in the third period, Ray Shepard scored his 5th of the season from Luc Robitaille and Joe Rickey. That was a 6-2 victory. Kevin Deneen and Joe Rickey got into a fight as well. Mike Gartner is hurt, but it's a playable injury, so we're not gonna worry about it. Gartner day-to-day, as we just saw, with a severe facial cut. Mike Gartner extended his assist streak to 10 games with 1 assist against the Waiters. Luc Robitaille extended his point streak to 14 with an assist as well. That was 9 straight games with an assist at the same time. Gary Volk is back from suspension. That's good. Joey Kosher is suspended in Detroit. He's going to miss 7 games. There was no stopping Dave Andreychuk in Buffalo. He had a hat-trick against the Red Wings. Suspension for Winnipeg's Pat Elenock. He's going to miss 4 games. And that's the scouting for the month. Don't care. Alright, we are in Boston now playing the Bruins. That's our last game of the month of October. So it was a pretty busy month. That's going to be our 13th game of the month. So pretty... well, I guess pretty much the same as everybody else except Minnesota, pretty much. So... alright, Boston is 6-2-2 this season. take a look at. Definitely doing better. They've been struggling the last couple years. Oh, FJ is going to be really sad. Stéphane Lebeau is hurt. He's not going to be playing this game. And then Randy Gillen is hurt. He may or may not play. So Reggie Lemelin and David Delfino are in net for Boston. Doug Crossman, Greg Allgood, Don Sweeney, Glenn Wesley, Ray Bork, Craig Ludwig, and Stefan Quintal on D. Randy Burridge, Gillen, Miller, Sykes, Carson, Craig Janney, Linsman, Arkins, Byers, Neely, Queenie, Sweeney, Nolan, and Emerson up front. So Jimmy Carson is down to a 2-star player now, and he just signed the contract extension, I think. He has a 4-year contract. Yeah. Alright. Alright, let's go Kings. Let's make it 6 wins in a row. Why not? Artus Airbay is going to be in net for that one. David Delfino is going to be in net for Boston. Go Kings! A 3-3 tie. We're back to tying again. Alright, 3-3 tie in Boston. We outshot Boston 42-41. Randy Burridge was the first star of the game. He had a goal and an assist. Mike Ridley was the second star with a goal and an assist. And Jimmy Carson was the third star with an assist. Nobody scored in the first. Then in the second period, Mike Ridley scored from Joe Rickey and Scott Arneal. Then Boston tied the game. Then Gary Galley scored from Andrew Castles and Wayne Gretzky, made it 2-1. Boston tied the game again, made it 2-2 after 2. Then in the third period, Boston scored, made it 3-2 Boston, and then Randy Wood tied the game from Mike Ridley and Gerald Deduck, tied at 3. We had Phil Sykes fighting Gerald Deduck in the third period, and of course nobody scored in the overtime period, so that's a tie. And Randy Wood is hurt. We're already thin at left wing. Oh, he's day to day. We're fine. We're fine. Right, Steve Tuttle is on waivers. I cannot and will not pick him up. Mike Gartner's assist streak ended at 10 games. Didn't get an assist in that game against Boston. Wayne Gretzky extends his point streak to 12 games with an assist. Luc Robitaille's point streak ended at 14 games, was held scoreless, so his assist streak also ended at 9 games. Joe Sakic extends his point streak to 14 games. He had a goal and an assist against the Rangers. Suspension for Jim Johnson in Minnesota. He's going to miss 3 games. No further punishment for Paul Coffey, not suspended. And he did score his 300th goal of his career with a goal and an assist against Minnesota. Paul Coffey is 30 years old and obviously a 5-star player. The jerseys that sold the most in October for the Kings: Wayne Gretzky, Artus Airbay, Luc Robitaille, Mike Gartner, and Gary Galley. And in the entire league, Gretzky was 3rd, Airbay was 16th, and Luc Robitaille was 17th. And the players of the month were Brian Mullen and John Casey. Wow, I wouldn't have put money on any of that. Alright, so we tied a lot. So we're 6-1-6. That's good for 3rd in the conference, though. So that's a good thing about ties, is that you still get a point. So, of course, a win is better. But after everything is said and done, we lost our first game of the month, and then we went undefeated the rest of the month. That's pretty impressive. So we're 3rd in the conference as a result. We have a few injuries. That's a little bit concerning. Hopefully we are going to be able to overcome that. Now let's take out the poor Vancouver Canucks are still dead last. Even the Sharks are better than them. Alright, so conference-wise... Oh, look at that. The Nordiques are doing pretty good. Guess it's better to look at the division. So the Nordiques are leading their division with 16 points. It's a pretty tight race, though. But still... Yeah, Chicago and Vancouver are the two worst teams in the league, and then the Flyers are not that great either. Oh my god. San Jose is already a minus 34 goal differential in only 14 games played. That's not good. That's terrible. Yeah, they have allowed on average close to 5 goals a game. All right. I just noticed something. Something that's kind of inaccurate. So it's showing that I'm on a 6-game winning streak, but I just tied. That's interesting. All right, let's take a look at our stats here. Oh, Randy Wood is not going to be able to play with his injury. All right. So let's see. Gretzky had 33 points in the month of October, and he wasn't named the player of the month. Brian Mullen was, and he only had 24. That's interesting. Right, 33 points for Gretzky. Robitaille has 24, Gartner 20, Ray Shepherd has 14, Gary Galley 13, and then it just goes down from there. And then in the entire league, Akan Lube has the most goals scored with 14. And then Gretzky is second with 13. Gretzky is first with assists with 20, and he has like a 9-point lead on Luc Robitaille and Brian Mullen, who are second. Gretzky has 33 points. Let's take a look at our goalie leaders. Yeah, Gravel is a 911 save percentage. That's good for 9th. And he's 8th for goals saved above average with 4.32. Glenn Ely, our former teammate, is first in that category. Alright, I'm gonna go ahead and save all of that. And as usual, I do want to thank you for tuning in, and if you're catching this on YouTube later and that you've liked the video, please feel free to like, subscribe, share, comment, all of that good stuff. And until I roll this game again, I'll see you folks next time. Thank you.